Okay, Chairman, you can begin.
Thank you. Good evening, members, and thank you for attending this penultimate meeting of East Northamptonshire Council. Before we move on to the agenda items, I would like to ask you to join me in remembering two of our members who have now sadly passed away. Councillor Ron Pinnock left us on the 30th of October last year. He was the ward member for Rushton Sarteris, a member of Rushton Town Council, and had formerly represented Rushton West at Northamptonshire County Council. Ron was the Mayor of Rushton in 2002/3 and then Chairman of this council during 2004/5. Ron was a long-standing member of the Planning Management Committee. I always considered Ron to be a true gentleman who gave a great deal to this council. He was one of those individuals who would just get on with the job in hand. Sincere condolences go to his wife Janet, who is also a councillor with us here at East Northants. Today we also heard of the very sad news that Councillor Roger Glitheroe passed away. Roger joined this council at its inception in 1974 as ward member for Kings Forest West. In the 47 years of service he has given to our residents of East Northamptonshire, he has held many posts, including former deputy leader. He was long-standing chairman of the Personnel Subcommittee and a member of Policy and Resources and Planning Management. I had the pleasure of sitting next to Roger at many planning management committees, and he brought a wealth of knowledge and experience, along with a pocket full of sweets. He used to share them with me now and then. Roger was a lovely man with a great character. Sincere condolences go to his family and friends. So on behalf of all the councillors and staff, we would like to send our deepest sympathy to all those affected by the loss of our two colleagues. Therefore, members, will you now please join me in a 2-minute silence? May they rest in peace. Thank you, members. Moving on to agenda item 1, to receive any apologies for absence.
Thank you, Chairman. We've received one apology from Councillor Philip Stern.
Thank you. Item 2 is to approve the minutes of the meeting of the council held on the 26th of October 2020. Now pages 166 to 172 in the report book. So I'm looking for a proposer unless there are any issues on the accuracy of those minutes, please.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Propose.
Madam
Thank
Chair.
you. Thank you. I think I have a seconder. All those in favour, please.
Madam Chair. Madam
Beg your
Chair.
pardon.
Aye.
Madam Chair.
Tony Boto.
One
Hear me?
moment, please.
Yes,
Thank you.
on page 170,
Thank you.
in the question section, my name appears in the Dorothy Maxwell set of questions. It's minute 229. After the first paragraph, after I ask my question,
Oh, yes.
helps the Tony Boto sound with no particular relevance, which is probably quite true, actually. But so
Okay.
I
Yeah.
suggest it's struck out.
Thank you. Can we amend those, please? Sorry, my fault entirely. Can I ask you to use the chat function if you wish to notify me that you wish to speak, because I actually can only see 9 of you. So thank you. That would be great. Thank you for that, Councillor Boto. So back to where we were. Could I call? I honestly can't remember who proposed or seconded that one. So I think I heard Councillor Wathen, and I can't remember the rest. So please, can we start again on that item? Thank you. Proposer.
I propose.
Thank you, Councillor Wathen. And the seconder.
I'm happy to second it.
Sorry, I don't know who that was.
Colin Wright.
So thank you, Colin. Thank you, Councillor Wright. Beg your pardon. And all in favour, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Any against? Any abstentions? Thank you, members. All right, next item is to receive any declarations of interest, please. No. Thank you. To receive the official announcements, and the first is myself. So, as you can imagine, there hasn't been any civic events for me to report on, but I'd like to say a big thank you to those members who agreed to be included in my Christmas card. I was really delighted with it, and we've had many positive comments, so thank you to everyone for that. Another thank you goes to those members who have pledged some of their remaining empowerment funds to support me in helping to raise some funds for my chosen charity, the East Northants First Responders. They need the funds for a range of things, including uniform, PPE equipment, training equipment, masks, medical supplies, new defibrillators, just to mention a few. The volunteers have raised every penny for the volunteers have to raise every single penny for all of this equipment. They don't even get paid for the mileage that they do. And as you can imagine, during the pandemic, they're working flat out to assist the NHS. Not forgetting that they also have full-time jobs to hold down. They're also currently carrying out COVID testing in schools and administering vaccines. These men and women truly are our East Northants heroes, so thank you on their behalf. If any of you still have any funds available, don't let them go to waste. With ENC ceasing, please pledge them, and then you will know that they will be used across East Northamptonshire. I have also had a great response to my Chairman's Champions Awards, and we are going through the entries and are working on the arrangements for virtual presentations. So thank you to all those who sent in nominations. Thank you. Any announcement from our Chief Executive?
Nothing from me, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And now on to receive an announcement from the Leader of the Council. So I hand over to Councillor North.
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, members. This year has started as last year was, and in very difficult circumstances, and I think that was only compounded this morning by picking up the sad news regarding Roger Glivero's passing. Obviously, Chairman, you obviously got right in the comments you've made, but in my view, any adding to that tonight, I don't think is appropriate in the circumstances, and I'm sure there'll be opportunities in the future to pay our respects to Roger and all those members we've lost recently and in the past. I have spoken to the family today, and I have already passed on, or I have passed on condolences. But as I say, for any further comments tonight, I don't think are appropriate. In relation to anything else, very good news later this week that planning policy, and that's always good news, but I have a copy of the draft local plan, as I'm sure other members do, on planning policy, actually in its totality in draft form. So hopefully, Chair, subject to any issues with the meeting on Wednesday evening, that we do a final technical consultation, which is not a public consultation. That will be left to anybody who wants to approach the inspector for the inquiry. So hopefully, in the next period of time, we'll be able to submit the local plan before the end of the council. Yes, we haven't submitted it in time to actually receive it back, but obviously it will still be very good if we can finally get the local plan off before the sad demise of this organisation. So let's hope that all goes to plan, and by the time of the next council meeting, it should be whisked away onto the inspector. The only other thing I'd like to do, Chair, is as per last time, just thank all the staff for what they're doing way and above the normal day to day. We do sometimes forget they're actually doing all their COVID activity on top of the day-to-day job, extra work, and all these difficult circumstances. We have issues with virtual. Well, if staff doing it all day long as well, there are many issues around, and they're all coping admirably with that. And I'd certainly like to, not particularly, but certainly pick out Lucy Hodgson and Greg McDonald, them and their teams, for all the way they're dealing with the COVID monies we're getting from the government and making sure businesses supported and getting that money out. There are many members, staff are doing lots of hard work, including the finance team, but I would like to note them in particular for making sure they're actually supporting business and getting out the money that we're receiving from the government. So that's all for me this evening, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor North. So next item on the agenda is to receive the reports from the chairman of the council's committees, and I'd first like to call on Councillor Richard Lewis to present the Policy and Resources Committee minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman, and good evening, everyone. I've got two P&R meetings to report on this evening. The first one is in the main pack of committee reports, and it's page 173 to 191, and this was a meeting that was held on the 2nd of November 2020. First one is 237, minutes of subcommittees and working parties. I had finance sub on 9th of September, and these minutes are appended in the finance sub on the 19th of October, and I have a resolve to recommend item there, which is regarding the economic recovery prospectus, which is actually in the minutes on item 9, page 184, which is quite a detailed report. And I'd like to recommend the two items there: that progress to date on the economic recovery prospectus phase 1 be noted, and 2, that the economic recovery prospectus phase 2 and associated work streams be approved. I'd like to propose those items, please.
Thank you, Councillor Lewis. So now, members, we will be going to a vote as soon as I've just called for a seconder. So can I remind you to unmute your screens? So can I have a seconder, please, for that proposal?
I'd be happy to second it. All right.
Thank you. I think that was Councillor Lewis. So all in favour?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Any against? Any abstentions? Thank you. That's carried.
Okay, thank you very much. There were two personnel subcommittee meetings, which were a matter of report. Item 238 is a public spaces protection order update, which is 3 years since the original in 2017, and it's actually a 27-page document, which I'd recommend anybody to read, because it is quite interesting, the replies there. 91% of the public are in favour, and it does give you an awful lot of information. So it was resolved that we accepted the updated public space protection order. Item 239 was homelessness prevention grants 21-22, and of course this moves us into the new authority. So resolved to approve in principle an extension to our current homelessness prevention grant funding for the organisations as set out in the report. And it resolved to recommend to North Northamptonshire Shadow Authority that the financial provisions to cover the funding referred to in the recommendations above are included in their draft budget. So I don't know if there's any questions on those, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Lewis. Are there any questions on that first item? No? Thank you. Remind members to please use the chat if you would like to make a comment. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on now to second PNR, which is on January the 18th, 2021, which is on the separate minutes that have been circulated. We have several resolved and recommends here. Item 296, minutes of subcommittees or working parties. We had personnel subcommittee on the December the 7th. Then on 14th of December, finance and performance subcommittee. And from that we have R7 regarding the budget monitoring report, which is resolved to recommend to full council that an increase of £68,439 to the 2021 approved capital programme in relation to disabled facilities grants to be funded from capital grant income be approved. I'd like to propose that recommendation there in R7, please.
Thank you, Councillor Lewis. So members, if you could unmute yourselves. I'd call for a seconder, please.
I'll second that.
Seconded, Madam.
Thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Any against? Any abstentions? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Move on now to item 297, which is the council tax base 21-22. And each year we have to estimate the council tax base for the following year. And this year the recommended figure is 32,547. And that is again a resolve to recommend. So in R8, I'd like to recommend that a tax base of 32,547 for the year 21-22 be adopted.
Thank you, Councillor Lewis. Are there any questions? No, I have none in the chat. Okay, so can I call for a seconder, please?
Second that.
Thank you. All in favour?
Aye.
Any against? Any abstentions? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now, really, the next item is 299, which is financial support from Freedom Leisure, and that is actually an agenda item tonight, item 13, so that will be covered by the main agenda. And I'd like now to refer you to page 227 of the minutes of the Finance and Performance Subcommittee on the 14th of December. We have another resolve to recommend, which is purely mechanistic one. So R10 on page 227 is that Treasury Management performance for the period to 30th September 2020, quarter 2 in the financial year 2021 be noted. So I'd like to propose R10, which is I've just described, which is really just a mechanistic operation, but this has to be approved by full council.
Thank you, Councillor Lewis. So I'll take it there's no questions. No, thank you. Can I call for a seconder then, please?
Seconded, Chair.
Thank you. All in favour?
Aye.
Any against? Any abstentions? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Madam Chairman. So as I say, R9 will be covered by the normal agenda. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Lewis. So moving on, the next item is the report from the Planning Management Committee, and I will call on Councillor Jill Mercer, who will be taking these minutes. Thank you.
Good evening, members and officers. I'm standing in for Councillor Stern this evening. I have the reports from the Planning Management meetings of the 11th and 12th and 18th of November, and the 9th and 16th of December, and was to follow the 20th of January. As you can see, there are 6 meetings. I think it's taking a little longer to do planning meetings in this sort of environment, and I have a feeling that developers are sending a lot of applications to us because they want to get them heard before ENC ceases. However, we're only having 2 meetings as suggested by officers between now and the end of March, so I somehow doubt we'll get through this backlog. I'm sure the other unitary will have to pick that up. So I assume no questions, they're all matters of report, and so I'd like to present these to the council.
Thank you, Councillor Mercer. Are there any questions for Councillor Mercer? No? Thank you very much. So moving on, I would like to call upon Councillor Peter Wathen to present the minutes of the Governance and Audit Committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairman. The meeting was, we had one meeting on the 25th of November last year. Fairly sort of straightforward agenda. We had the internal audit progress update and on the recommendations, and generally these are going very much to plan. As I think the leader mentioned earlier on, obviously COVID is impacting on a lot of things, and some of these are not being done, going through as quickly as possible, but that's really only to be expected in the current climate. Way back, if you remember the Grenfell Tower disaster, after that we inquired of all of our housing providers to make sure that their fire safety systems were all up to date. That survey was undertaken and all was positive. Following that, we've agreed to do this every year, and that still is positive. We're still awaiting, or we were at the date of this meeting, we were awaiting a couple of providers to finalise their response. They have since that time done so, and all is in order. Under the excluded items, we had the risk monitoring update. Nothing particular to report there. If anybody wishes to see that, of course, that is actually on the council website. And also we looked at the asset management and cyber security update through the working party, and the minutes of that, the notes of that were approved. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Wathen. So moving on, we're now looking for Councillor David Brackenbury to present the planning policy minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and good evening, members and ladies and gentlemen. Presenting the Planning Policy Committee minutes, one meeting in this cycle, and that was on the 10th of December. The leader, in fact, has spoken quite a bit about the item 282, the local plan update and progression. We have finalised the draft as far as member input was concerned at that meeting, and we went through the draft of the text for the local plan part 2 during that discussion, and obviously with the caveat that there would be some changes. Then that meeting passed through the wording of that, and that will now come back to planning policy on Wednesday, which will be the final sign-off, after which the Part 2 plan goes for Reg 19 consultation, which, as the leader pointed out, is a technical consultation and is then submitted with any representations from the Reg 19 consultation to the Secretary of State. And obviously there will be in due course a public inquiry where anybody may make representations. But we will, assuming it is signed off on Wednesday, we will have produced the East Northamptonshire local plan, and that will be the text from which any planning policy guidance is taken. At 283, we also were discussing the alternative viable site allocations This is interesting because the council had as a preferred site allocation Rushton Lakes West, but we've had objections from Natural England, which make it extremely difficult to develop that site as we wanted to do. So an alternative site in delivering land to the east of the A6 Bedford Road has been brought forward, and there will be a draft master plan framework document brought forward. We had quite an interesting discussion on it, and there was quite a lot of member input on that document. And of course, that master plan framework document, as with the Rushton SU, the Rushton East urban extension, which has already been out there for some years, those master plan documents will all be living documents and will all take changes as those developments come forward. And with my grateful thanks, as always, to the members of the Planning Policy Committee and the officers for all their extremely hard work, for long and technical meetings, that, Madam Chairman, are the minutes of that meeting.
Thank you very much, Councillor Brackenbury. So now we move on to item number 7, which is other reports from the licensing panels. You will see that we have the reports from those licensing panels. I don't know whether the chair of licensing would wish to say anything.
No comment from me. It's all a matter of record. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Jenny. So next item is item number 8, motions. Do we have any motions? Ben?
Madam Chairman.
Thank you. So item number 9 is to receive questions pursuant to Rule 10.2, notices of which has been given under Rule 10.4. And I understand we do have 3 questions from Councillor Dorothy Maxwell. So I'm going to hand over to David Oliver, our Chief Executive, to deal with these items. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. As you mentioned, 3 questions from Councillor Maxwell, which I think has become something of a tradition. Councillor Maxwell has actually asked a version of her second question twice in the last 6 months, so I don't propose to read it out or to respond a third time. I just invite Councillor Maxwell to refer to the minutes of the council meetings in July and October last year, because the answers are there already. So the first of her questions, that was the second one, the first of her questions was, with committee meetings now taking place on Teams or Zoom, what possibility is there of ensuring that the public can hear the officers? Last Wednesday, at a planning meeting on the application for Rockingham Speedway, the officer was unable to talk at times and the environmental officer stepped in. Could this technical issue be sorted out in future? The public are really interested in planning applications in their area and in listening to the case officer. Well, I can confirm that there were no technical ICT issues at the meeting of the Planning Management Committee last Wednesday. It was an individual external officer attending the meeting who had some IT issues, and those were localised to that individual and were not in our control. So as far as our operations are concerned, there are no IT issues. So,
thank you.
Am I allowed to reply to that?
Yes. Actually, first, Councillor Maxwell, you've actually seemed to have shared your screen somehow. I don't know if you're able to, just above where your little hand cursor is, it says stop sharing. Are you able to do that?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry, I couldn't move the cursor. Sorry.
No, if you see that there's a box with a cross on it.
Yeah.
Slightly to your right. If you can click that, it'll stop sharing your screen. Thank you. So yes,
I've lost you now.
We've still got you.
I've lost you. No, I can't see them. It's a bit stupid.
So Councillor Mercer, did you hear the chief? Sorry, Councillor Maxwell, did you hear the Chief Executive's response to your first question?
I did. I actually wanted to make a comment, actually.
Okay, a comment or a supplementary?
Well,
in relation to the answer that you've received?
a supplementary to it.
Okay.
There was a problem last Wednesday, and maybe if you'd been there, you would have heard it yourself. But the fact is that the officer, when they cannot be heard, they should be able to use the phone.
Is this question a supplementary question? Because as far as I understand it, the chief executive have just said that this was an external issue with internet, nothing to do with the council itself. And unfortunately, members outside of the council, we cannot be held responsible for their internet connection. But I was at that meeting and I did hear that meeting, and members, that individual did come back online and the members' questions were answered as far as I'm aware. So do you have a supplementary question following that?
Leave it, that's okay.
Thank you. Mr. Oliver, would you care to continue?
Yeah, certainly, Chair, thank you. So finally, lastly, the front entrance is a massive improvement. This is the front entrance to the council offices in Thrapston. Would it be possible to have a timeline of East Northants history in the front entrance? So the answer to that is that there is an officer working group currently looking at ending East Northants Council well. So thinking about all the things that we need to do prior to the 31st of March, and is considering how best to celebrate the history of East Northants Council. So Councillor Maxwell's suggestion will be forwarded to that officer working group for consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are you satisfied with that answer, Councillor Maxwell?
Excellent.
Thank you very much. Okay, moving on.
Yes, please.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 10, which is the request to transfer chains of office from East Northamptonshire to the North Northamptonshire Council. So I will now hand you over to Mr. Ben Smith, who will take us through this part of the agenda. Thank you.
Apologies, Chairman, slightly tickly throat. Okay, thank you, Chairman. On 26th of November, the Civic Task and Finish Group for North Northants Shadow Authority reported to the Shadow Executive Committee, and it proposed how the new council civic function should operate following vesting day on 1st of April 2021. As part of its recommendations, it recommended that 3 chains of office, one for the chair, one for the vice chair, and for the chairman's consorts, be included. Of the 4 current sovereign councils, the 3 mayoral sets of chains of office for Corby, Kettering and Wellingborough, they are to be used by the successor mayoral authorities, so the respective new town councils which have been established over the last 12 months or so. As there is no equivalent successor authority in East Northamptonshire, the Shadow Executive Committee agreed that East Northamptonshire Council be approached to ascertain whether it would be willing for its 3 chains of office to continue to be used after 1st of April by the new council. Any upgrades to the chains of office required, if transferred, including inclusion of the new council logo, would be funded, of course, by the new council. Representations have also been made to Rushden Town Council, noting that the chains of office were previously in the ownership of one of East Northamptonshire Council's predecessor authorities, that being Rushden Urban District Council. You will see that Rushden Town Council in December resolved that it would like the change returned to the area in order to retain them as part of Rushden civic history. So this council is now therefore asked for its own views on whether it is willing to transfer the chains of office to the new North Northamptonshire Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. So, Councillor Maxwell, it looks like you've shared your screen again. I wonder if you could stop sharing your screen. Thank you. Thank you, Ben, for that report. So obviously, members, we have been approached to consider handing over these chains of office to the Northamptonshire new unitary council. I know there's a lot of feeling about that, and I personally think that the request from Rushden Town Council is a valid one, and as they were originally donated to East Northamptonshire by Rushden, probably they should return to their original owners, and it would be quite fitting, as I was pointed out earlier on today, that the final name on this chain is that of Councillor Ron Pinnock, so it might be worth sending them back to where they came from. So I'd be interested to see what members think. Thank you. And I have Councillor Dudley Hughes as the first speaker on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. I really feel that after it's the logo is the East Northants bit, really, and that certainly should end up in some display cabinet somewhere that celebrates East Northamptonshire. Now, if that's going to be at Thrapston, I don't know, but probably better in Rushden, because it seems they have already got a display case where they can put that, along with the chains, which are not in wonderful condition, but they are quite historic because they've been through a series of councils, although I have to say it's a shame that the names were never put on them recently. So I think the answer is they should go somewhere where they can be displayed, and Rushden probably is the best place.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. I now have Councillor Sarah Peacock would like to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I'd like to enforce that as well as Rushden Town Council. You know, the historic value is there. I know it's a bit like Trigger's Broom, things have changed, but the original artefacts did come from Rushden. And I think it would be nice to have them back, and we would take great care of them in the town and display them so that all the East Northants heritage is not lost as well. So I think if they could be probably just a little revamped, a little bit of TLC given to them before they're handed over, to make it easy for us to maintain them as well, because as you say, nothing's been put on there since Councillor Ron Pinnock. So I think there's a few of us who are missing from that. So to make it up to the full amount would be good before it's handed back. If that's what we would like. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Peacock. I don't seem to have anybody else on my chat that's wanting to say anything further. Are there any further speakers on this item? I'm aware that there is a fund available for maintenance on the chains, and I think that it's right and fitting to see how much we have. I'm not too sure whether there's enough to put all the other councillors on, because we'd have to restring the whole lot and put a new backing to it. But I think certainly repairs would be a really good thing, of bringing it up to speed and up to date a bit more, and sending it back in a fitting manner. So
Madam Chair, perhaps we could have a plaque or something done to accompany it for those that are not actually on the chain. We could probably get a plaque engraved to go with it, just so that it's a complete record of East Northants chairman.
Yeah, sounds positive to me. I'm just seeing if there are any further comments from anybody. All I keep seeing is, can we please ask Councillor Maxwell to stop sharing her screen? So we will keep trying to ask Councillor Maxwell to do that. So in light of the comments, beg your pardon.
Chairman, it's Councillor Wendy Brackenbury. I'd just like to say I'd rather than having further the names of chairman on further chains, I agree with the plaque idea. I think it would certainly be a more cost-effective way of going about things.
Lovely. Yeah, I think that probably would be much more cost-effective. Okay, no, I can't see anybody else, so I'm just checking now to see if there's a recommendation. I don't think there is, so I'm going to well, the councillors considered, so the recommendation is to consider whether it supports the request, and I'm hearing that the council doesn't support the request from the Northamptonshire Shadow Executive to transfer the chains of office for repurposing. So I would like a proposer, please, for that.
Chairman,
Councillor Peacock.
Yeah, Councillor Peacock, thank you.
Yes, I'd like to propose that, and that the chains return to Rushden Town Council.
Thank you. With a plaque bringing up to date, I think was
Yes,
the
that'd be nice.
suggestion.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Can I second that?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you,
Just to say that I assume, as well as the chains, that the actual logo or plaque or badge of East Northants will accompany them, because after that's part of the deal and be suitably displayed. And if there's going to be anything at Thrapston, by way of remembering that we used to have a council there, well then obviously that will have to be arranged.
Chairman.
Just as a point of interest, Chairman, the medallion was designed by Councillor Wood, who is a town councillor. So that's quite nice as well to think that's his design would be coming back.
Thank you. I've just had a comment actually from Councillor Andy Mercer, and which is quite valid actually. What about the deputy chairman's chains? Obviously, we have two sets of chains. So
well, I thought that applied to all the chains. The question was about all the chains, so I second all the chains, or
all the chains.
And also there are some items in the cabinet, in the waiting room going into the council, that were things awarded to the council as part of the exchanges and things, and maybe something suitable can be done with those too.
Okay, I just remind everybody I can only see a certain number of screens, so if you are raising your hands I can't see you, so please do use the chat facility or let me know that you wish to speak. So I think I might have seen Councillor Wathen, am I right?
You did indeed, Chairman. Sorry about this.
That's okay.
I can't find the chat thing on my or anyway, but just to say that the board in the members foyer that has all the names on, I'm assuming that will be included as part of this transfer. That has all the chairman's names on it.
No, we're only talking about the chains.
Could I just interject? This report is specifically about the chains of office. All of the other, items and memorabilia, etc. All of those sort of things are being dealt with in a working group at the moment, which is ending well in East Northamptonshire. So those matters are being dealt with, but just not as part of this report.
Thank you, Ben. Yes, thanks for that clarification. I do have Councillor Andy Mercer would like to speak, actually.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chairman. My screen's gone white again.
Oh,
yeah. Yes. Councillor Mercer, sorry, just one moment, please. Councillor Maxwell, you are sharing your screen again. Could you please stop sharing your screen? The square with the cross in it, you need to tick it or click on it again to stop sharing your screen.
No, not that
it's
one.
Extremely distracting for other members.
That's it.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. So, sorry, Councillor Mercer, please do carry on.
Okay, somewhat distracted, as you can probably guess. I was leader when we received those items as part of the twinning process, and I in fact arranged them to be donated to the council and put into the display cabinet. If I were asked, I would have no problem with them accompanying the chains, but clearly that is not what is on the motion at this moment.
Thank you, Councillor Mercer. Yes, I have Councillor David Brackenbury.
Very quickly, Madam Chairman, thank you very much. I'm just pointing out that there are three chains. There is the Chairman's chain, which you are gracing at the moment, the Vice Chairman's chain, and Consort's chain, which is a splendid piece of work, albeit rather short for gentlemen members.
Indeed it is, thank you. Yes, so we're talking about all three chains then, shall we? Yes,
that's correct.
Thank you very much. So we have a proposal from Councillor Sarah Peacock that they are returned to Rushton, to their rightful home, with a plaque naming all the following councillors who were chairman subsequently from Councillor Pinnock, and that includes all three chains, and then the rest of the memorabilia will be dealt with by the working party, as we understand from Ben. Is everything okay? I'm going to call for a seconder on that, please.
Can I ask, Madam Chairman, before we vote, that this working party, I hope, has representation from councillors on it, isn't just a working party of officers?
I'm unaware, Councillor Hughes, but we will find out. Thank you. I understood you seconded the motion, did you not, earlier, Councillor Hughes? Thank you. So I'm going to call for a vote now. So, all in favour?
Aye.
Any against? Any abstentions? Thank you, that motion's carried. Thank you. Right, next item on the agenda is appointments to committees, and I will hand you over to Ben in Democratic for the report on this. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you, Chairman. This is a relatively regular report. So any time that we have changes to the political makeup of council, we are required by law to report to you the change in political balance. And so following the sad death of Councillor Ron Pinnock in October 2020, and in November 2020, Councillor Jake Vowles leaving the Conservative group to become an unaligned independent, a recalculation of political balance was made. I will confirm that I did do a further calculation after this morning's sad news, but there are no further changes required as a result, and though that calculation was reported to both the leader and the leader of the opposition. So the only thing that I would say is reference you to 4.2 of the report, which is following consultation with the group leaders. The only resultant change proposed to committee membership is that Councillor Vowles, as a recently unaligned independent, be placed on the Planning Policy Committee from today until the 1st of April. And that's all I would like to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Am I right in thinking Councillor Brackenbury would like to speak? Thank you, Councillor Brackenbury.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yes, thank you for that, and it will of course be a pleasure to see Councillor Vowles on the Planning Policy Committee. He was a member of it for some time, and his input and wisdom has always been appreciated. This is really an administrative point through you, Madam Chairman, but we do have a meeting of the Planning Policy Committee on Wednesday. It's a very important meeting. Can Councillor Vowles get his papers as quickly as possible so that he can contribute in that meeting? Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Ben. I'm sure that that can be arranged.
Yes, Chairman, I can confirm that.
Thank you very much. Are there any further speakers on this item? No? Okay, with that then we'll go to the recommendation in 13.1, which is A, that Councillor Jake Vowles be appointed to the Planning Policy Committee, noting the voting requirements in 6.1 above, which is the political balance. So can I have a proposer for that, please?
Propose, Chair. Or the leader will.
And a seconder?
I'll do whichever he didn't.
Okay. You can second it then, Councillor Brackenbury. Thank you. And all in favour, please.
Aye.
Any against? Any abstentions? Thank you, that's carried. Right, moving on to the next item, which is that this council shall resolve to exclude the press, the public and press from this meeting during consideration of the following items of business. So that's item 13, support for freedom leisure, because exempt information as defined in paragraph 3 of part 1 of schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972 may be disclosed. So can I have a proposer, please?
Proposed, Chair.
Thank you.
Seconded.
Please. Thank
Seconded.
you. All in favour?
Aye.
Thank you. Any against? Any abstentions? No. Thank you very much. We're just going to private session. Thank you.